Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to come on for a brief moment to remind you to go tell your story. Remember that somebody's waiting to hear your story. Your story is going to affect the life of someone, and someone is just in a dark hole right now waiting for a deliverer, and you could be their deliverer by just simply sharing your story, letting them know that there's still hope to get them out of the place that they are in. And your story matter, your story is valuable, and I want to remind you to go tell your story. And as well, I just wanted to share with you this book that I'm reading, that I just finished reading, that really impacted my life, and I believe that it's going to impact yours. So the name of the book is actually Living Courageously. You can face anything, just do it afraid. So it's by Joyce Meyer, one of my favorite authors. And I just wanted to give you a little synopsis about the book. So it's all about living courageously and facing your fears, and just living a life that is fearless. I mean, we will always have to face up to things in life that seems difficult and that ignites feelings of fear inside of us. And every single day, when you look through the Bible, there's so many times that God said, fear not, fear not, fear not. Do not, fear not, do not be afraid. And I think for God to have to tell us that so many times, He know that there'll be different circumstances in our lives daily that would cause us to feel fear. And let me just share what the book is about. So you have fear, and if you don't face your fear, it can paralyze you and hold you back from enjoying life to the fullest. Joyce Meyer, #1 New York Times best-selling author, wants to show you that to break out of fear, you must face it head on. The good news is God wants to give you the strength you need to beat fear and live courageously. That's why He tells you repeatedly throughout the Bible to fear not, because He is with you. In Living Courageously, Joyce explains how you can overcome the debilitating power of fear by learning to confront and conquer any and every fear you have. Blending practical insights, her personal experiences, and inspiring scripture, this book will teach you how to conquer any fear, reach your fullest potential, and start living life free to the fullest. Whether you fear being inadequate, being rejected, or losing control, you can learn how to triumph over every obstacle, even when you feel fearful. How can you face anything? You can face anything, and just do it afraid. So throughout this book, she's been focusing on the fact that fear exists in our everyday life. We fear so many things. We fear heights, we fear relationships, we fear people, we fear situations, we fear different circumstances that would arise in our lives. But the truth is, if the Bible and God Himself kept giving us that instruction to fear not, to fear not, to fear not, He Himself know that life is full of things that would cause us to be afraid. And if we are to live victorious lives, then we have to find a way to do it, to do what needs to be done, and to do it afraid, to do it with the fear, overwhelming fear in our hearts, but to move forward anyway. And it's all about faith. And even as I study my own life, I remember, even in my younger years, I remember taking so many risks. I remember not being afraid of many things. Yes, I was afraid of many things, but I remember also being adventurous enough to make some moves and to make decisions and to do things. And some of them were not always right, and some of them led to detrimental consequences. But there was still a spirit of there was still a part of me that was willing to take risks. And I remember recently spending time with someone that I would have known in a particular season of my life, and they said to me, "Who are you spending time with?" Because the person that I knew back then is very different. And it was not a negative thing, it was a positive thing, because the person that they knew was someone that was not afraid to make decisions or not afraid to do certain things. And while that may be one reason, I think after spending after going through life and making a lot of bad choices and making a lot of mistakes, you tend to want to be perfect. You tend to, you get so afraid of all the mistakes that you made and all the consequences that came about because of the mistakes that you made. You stop being that fearless person. You tend to get a little more risk averse. You tend to get risk averse and tend to, analyze things more. And there's a difference with taking calculated risks and moving forward. But then there's another extreme where we can just sit and analyze everything till we get paralyzed. I heard someone describe it as analysis paralysis. You analyze so much, but you never make a move. You just evaluating everything possible, but you're never moving forward and making a decision. And it keeps your life in stagnation. And when you look around, you realize that everything is moving around you, and you're stagnant. You're in one position because you're fearful to make a move, because you want all these circumstances and everything to line up perfectly before you make a move. And it doesn't work like that, because we need to take steps of faith. We need to launch out in faith and then trust God to take us into, and sometimes we say, well, I just want to know God's will, and we have to seek God. We have to seek God, but God is not going to hand it to us in a silver platter. We have to make some moves and then allow him to lead the way. And if it's not the right way, he'd shut the door. And if it's the right way, things would fall into place. But we have to trust God even in our decision making, and we can't just sit back and wait for all these circumstances to line up perfectly, because it never will. And I think one of the greatest fear that we have as humans is the fear of failure, and that works to our detriment, because we are going to feel that stuff. We are going to, if you're not doing anything, then you're not going to feel. But as long as you're doing something, you're going to have failures along the way. But a righteous man falls 7 times but gets back up 8. And I think that fear of failure keeps us stagnant. It keeps us stagnant. And the greatest lessons that I learned in my life is from my greatest failures. And I won't trade them, because I gleaned wisdom that the things that I learned in my valley, I would never have learned in my mountaintop moments. And I'm so grateful, because sometimes we pray, and I know particularly, sorry, I prayed and I asked God to give me wisdom. And that wisdom came at a cost. I paid a price for wisdom. I went through different seasons of my life. I went through circumstances that taught me to be wise. And the greatest lessons we learn sometimes is in our valley moments. And I just want to encourage you to feel forward. Don't be afraid of failure. Do it afraid. Feel forward. Don't be afraid of failing. So you fail and you get back up and you move again. And I remember this is one thing that stood out to me perfectly. My little niece Sophia, she's 6 years old. Sorry about that. She's 6 years old, and every time I pray for her, I will ask God to make her a giant killer. Lord, I want you to make Sophia a giant killer. She would be a giant killer of her generation. And every night I pray for her, I would say those prayers. Every single time I have the opportunity to pray for her, that's my prayer. Make her a giant killer in her generation. And I remember I was sharing something with her, and she's asking me, why aren't you doing this? And I was like, well, I'm kind of afraid. I can't remember what it was particularly, but I remember saying that I was afraid. And she told me, how can you, Shelly, teach someone to be a giant killer if you are not going to kill your giants, or something along those lines? And I was like, what is the 6-year-old telling me? And it kind of woke me up to know that someone's watching you, and we are training the next generation on how to be. If we are not bold and courageous and make moves and show them how to make moves, then they're looking at us, and our lives are the greatest examples. Not It's not what we say that is going to impact them, but it's what we do. And they are watching what we are doing, and they are watching who we are becoming, and we are teaching them how to live either courageously or cowardly. So I want to encourage you to do it afraid. Do it afraid, because when you look at it, TikTok time is running out, and we have dreams, and I don't know if all the dreams that I have is going to come to pass, but I know that I'm going to die trying to fulfill every dream and every vision that the Almighty placed in my heart. Is it all going to come to pass? I'm not sure. But I know that because it's in my heart, and because a fire is ignited in my soul to fulfill certain things, I am going to do it afraid. And I'll fail along the way. But we all have to do it afraid, because what's going to happen at the end of our life, we're going to have regrets of the things that we never even took the chance to do. I just want to invite you to get this book. It's Living Courageously by Joyce Meyer. Sorry. Let me see if I can get a picture of it for you. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Living Courageously by Joyce Meyer. Get that book. It's going to really change your life, because I was in a place of stagnation. I was thinking about so many things, but I wasn't making a move, and it really genuinely ignited something in me that gave me the push to do it afraid and to fail forward, fail along the way, but just keep throwing rocks at your dreams. Just keep throwing rocks. One day, one day something is going to break, and a door is going to open up, and things are going to change. But don't give up, and don't just sit in stagnation, not doing something. It's only going to change if we are brave enough to walk out the door and see what awaits us on the other side. So I just want to encourage you to do it afraid and to go tell your story. The world is waiting to hear your story. Your story matter. Your story is going to make a difference in the life of someone. Go tell your story.